Hey everybody, today I have Heidi on the channel, and Heidi is going to talk with us about all the different immigration visas here in the Philippines, from the SRRV Classic, which is for non-vets, to the SRRV Courtesy, which is for veterans. We'll talk about the deposits, the requirements. We'll also compare the 13A visa to an SRRV, and we'll also talk about the positive points of a 13A visa. We'll also touch other visas, especially business. So many people have been asking me, Mike, I want to come to the Philippines and start my business. I want to own the whole thing. Well, there's a visa for you. And Heidi will talk about it in this video. I have broken this video down into chapters to make it easy on you, so you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to. You can go right to the section that interests you, but I would really like it if you watch the whole video. I can use the views. So I hope you enjoy the video, and let's talk to Heidi. All right, guys, just like I said in the intro, I'm here with Heidi from C&G Consultants.
Hi.
Welcome back. She's been on the channel many times. Tell us a little bit about your company, what you offer.
So I'm the co-founder of C&G Immigration and Business Services. You can call us an expat one-stop shop where we help you with your immigration needs. And of course, if you want to register your business in the Philippines, we're here for that.
A business in the Philippines.
Yes.
But you can also help people driver's license wise and give them some references where to go.
Yes.
Banking that, especially if they get the SRRV.
Yes, exactly. We can help them with all of that too. Like if you need insurance, if you need a realtor, we can give you all the references with people that we've, verified.
So right now there's this war going on, even though in the Middle East. And I've noticed it's been affecting the Philippines with gas prices, ferries canceled because of no fuel. Has it affected the government or the way you operate?
So President Marcos has actually implemented a 4-day work week for government agencies. So a lot of the government agencies expect them to only be open 4 days a week. The Philippine Retirement Authority that grants the SRRV has already started implementing the 4-day work week, so Monday through Thursdays only. And we can expect that all other government agencies will follow because of, the surge in oil prices in the Philippines also. So expect, because of this, there might be a few delays in your processes in terms of, anything involving government. If you're going to go to a government agency, please check the days in which they're open, because most likely right now it's mostly Monday through Thursday. So Fridays we're looking at, they're going to be closed.
So this is going to affect the LTO, your license, registration for your motorbike or your car. Do you think the banks are going to be involved in the 4-day work week?
Well, the banks weren't really, it's a private institution, right? So the president only has directed the public institutions like your local government offices, owned and controlled corporations, anything in the executive. So we haven't heard anything from immigration yet, but just watch out for the memorandums that they're gonna publish out there.
So the shorter work week, Monday through Thursday, double check everything, and everything's going to take a little bit longer because they're only working 4 days. Hopefully this ends soon. Let's talk a lot of comments about the SRRV. We've talked about it many times, but every day there's a new person who's interested in one. So let's talk a little bit about the SRRV Classic and the requirements.
So the SRRV Classic is basically granted to people who have the capacity to put a deposit in, right? So there's 2 types of SRRV Classic. We have with pension and without pension. So if you are receiving at least 1,000 USD in pension, your deposit becomes a bit lower. So if you're receiving pension, then your deposit is 15,000 USD. And if you do not have pension, then the deposit is 30,000 USD. The very basic requirements is, of course, your proof of pension. And then if you're below 70, then you need to provide a police clearance from your country of origin. Those documents all need to be apostilled. The Classic is also available to those who are 40 to 49 years old. Your deposit is a little bit higher. because younger.
You're younger.
You're younger,
And they think you're richer.
Yeah, which to me, honestly, and it doesn't make any sense. We've had this conversation with PRA before where they ask the marketers, like, what do you think about this? And to me, it's like, when you're in your 40s, I feel like you're still in your wealth building phase in your life.
Could be.
Yeah, as opposed to people in their 50s,
Yeah.
right? So anyways, for the SRRV Classic with and without pension, with pension, your deposit is 25,000 USD. Without pension, your deposit is 50,000 USD.
50,000.
Yes.
Now let's talk a little bit about the deposit. People who are coming here and they're in their 40s, they're probably, and they're going to be here permanently. They're probably going to be buying residence, a condo or property with their wife or something of this nature. Can they use that money, and how hard is it to use it?
It's pretty much straightforward. So the SRRV Classic actually allows you to put that deposit into an investment so that you can get your money back. You can either invest in purchase of a condominium or a long-term lease of a house and lot. This happens 30 days after you're already approved. They will have a few requirements, and the most important requirement really is the title of that property, because the Philippine Retirement Authority will ask you to annotate the title to say that this property is used as an investment for you to have the SRRV. So people always ask, like, I don't want to put money into the government, like it's gonna disappear. It's not gonna disappear.
It's a regular bank account, but you can't access it without reason.
Yes, exactly. So you can even will it to people, just in case whatever happens to you. And we've had experiences before where clients, don't want to continue the SRRV before, and we have managed to get that money back. That money actually earns interest, like 3% a year even, which is like
better than nothing. Better than kicking the butt.
Right?
Yeah.
But you will have proof that you did deposit this money, and it's not going to go into a black hole. You will get your money back.
What if you're already here and you bought a condo, but you don't have an SRV? Can you use that condo as the collateral towards that 50 or 35,000?
So you actually still have to deposit the 50,000 still, and then you can use that condominium. So one important thing is the value of the condominium has to be at least 50,000 USD, and then you can use the condominium as an investment after. So after you're approved, you wait 30 days, and then you use that condominium as an investment towards your SRRV, so you get your money.
So you have to go through the whole process, money in the bank for 30 days, then after the 30 days.
After 30 days, you can use that investment. And I actually asked this question with the PRA recently, if there is a time limit to when you can convert that investment. There's no time limit.
No time limit on that. Now the PRA, that's the
Philippine Retirement Authority.
And that's different than the Philippine Bureau of Immigration.
Yes, there are two different agencies. Yes.
One's much more friendly to foreigners, the PRA.
PRA, super friendly.
What are some of the advantages of having an SRRV compared to a tourist visa?
Well, the SRRV generally gives you a sense of security right in your stay in the Philippines, especially if you are, you've built your life here, you have investments here, you have a family, just a sense of security. And then of course it's multiple entry and exits. And then the SRRV ID card is with the new GM and CEO of PRA. Actually, he's been very active in terms of creating relationships with other establishments, so that when you have your SRRV ID, you can actually get discounts. So the discounts are actually higher than the senior card.
Better than the senior card.
Better than the senior card, because you get discounts in hospitals, restaurants, resorts. There are also law firms that will give you a discount. If you're from Cebu, Abaca, if you're familiar with Abaca, if you have an SRRV, you can actually get a discount with Abaca. Crimson Resort, Mayo Medical. So these are just some of the benefits in having the SRRV ID. And I hear there's talk that they are planning to do a partnership with Philippine Airlines, so that you can also get a discount.
Well, that'd be good on the airlines. The airlines prices are going way up.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned something about hospitals in there. With the SRRV, do you get any special privileges with hospital?
Well,
Private hospitals.
Yeah, well, there are private hospitals that the PRA has a partnership with where you can get discounts. But if you are an SRRV holder, you're also qualified to be under our PhilHealth system. So I used to say that it's essentially, you know, the deductions are essentially nothing, but it's actually pretty significant. My dad was recently in the hospital January, and I was so shocked about how much they cut off from the PhilHealth, right? So it was around like 15 to 20% from the PhilHealth, which is significant.
I have PhilHealth, and I had it when I was on a tourist visa. It's 17,000 pesos a year. I don't know if it's different, but I'm going to assume you're on an SRRV and you're in the hospital and it's time to get out. It is against Philippine law to hold you to pay your bill in full. But being a permanent resident, I think that makes it easier for you to sign a promissory note and things of this nature of payment. That's the classic. Now, what about the courtesy? Now, the courtesy is probably the most popular one. And there are so many disabled vets that I'm meeting here. You know, they're on partial disability or full disability, and they're below 40. And they're in their 40s, and they're in the 50s or 60s. How is the courtesy SRRV?
So the SRRV for the courtesy, for everyone above 50, your deposit is still 1,500. For the 40 to 49, if you're not receiving any pension, then it's 3,000. The deposit, but if you're receiving pension, then it goes down again to 1,500 US.
So if you're getting a pension, it's 1,500 from 40 up.
Yeah. It's just, you know, a matter of like showing them your pension, and then of course, you know, you have to show your DD-214, and this has to be apostilled. If you have any questions with apostille, you know, just feel free to contact us. Before, the apostle was actually, you know, like, where do I get this? But then now,
oh my God, the apostle is so expensive.
It is so very expensive. But then you also have the option to have your documents notarized at the U.S. Embassy.
Authenticated. Yeah, you have to make an appointment for that. I'm doing that this week. And we'll talk about how easy or difficult that was. I got some other papers apostilled where I sent back to get apostilled and sent to me, and it was over $800. So it's expensive. Do it in the States. Get everything apostilled that you can. Now it's for veterans, and it's not retired veterans. It's for anybody that's served in the military.
As long as you can produce a DD-214, you should be qualified for the SRRV expanded.
And they don't, as that I know of, and there's no minimum amount of time in. You know, if you're in 2 years or 3 years, there's no minimum or maximum amount of time they want you in to qualify. Are there advantages to being the courtesy compared to this classic, or is this the same benefits?
It's basically the same. Some people think because you have a higher deposit, you know,
you get more,
but it's essentially the same. So if you've ever, you know, served in the military, served in international organizations, or worked for international organizations, you can actually avail of the SRRV courtesy.
And why did they have a courtesy? And a lot of people ask, it's like, why do they discriminate against non-veterans and veterans?
I think because the whole wisdom behind that is, you know, how the U.S. has helped the Philippines in the past during the war. So it's
World War II, guys.
World War II. So I think it's a sort of like thank you for helping us.
It basically was for any country that helped the Philippines. Now with Canada, Great Britain, I guess, and Australia, different, you know. Contact Heidi. I think they almost take everybody. I don't know if they'll take you to the Russian army or something. I don't know that. I have no idea what they do. They? Have you ever done anybody from Russia yet?
We've done before from other countries that have served in the military. I think it's just a thank you for your service for everyone who has served.
But the vast majority is American.
The vast majority is American. Because the documentation is a lot easier for them to get. A lot of our clients are actually, I want to say 80% Americans that are getting the courtesy. And of course the courtesy also, you know, takes in like former Filipinos.
Ah.
So the deposit is also lower for former Filipinos who don't want to give up their current citizenship and just want to get the SRRV.
Yeah, when I was in the Navy, there were a few Filipinos
Yeah.
that were there, and they were there to work, retire, and come back to the Philippines and be a wealthy man.
Yeah,
That-
I mean,
that was-
it's we do get clients who are former Filipinos and then they also served in the military, and we're always like, well, pick one. Which one do you want?
And both of these visas with the SRRV, how does that handle the dependents? You know, you got a wife, you got kids.
Yes, so you can have a maximum of 2 dependents for your SRRV. Anything above that, you have to put in an additional 15,000 per additional dependent. So if you're a bigger family, then you're gonna have to put in more. But with the 2, you can only put your immediate dependents. So meaning you can't put your mom or
Be your wife and child.
Yeah, it
or
has to be your
something.
wife and child.
Something
yeah.
of that nature.
And then there's also the question when you put your child in the SRRV, what happens? Because you can only put if they're below 21, so meaning 20 and below, right? And they always ask, what happens when they're no longer 20? In our experience, after you have the SRV for life. So meaning even after your kids turn above 21, they will have that SRRV for life.
But they're on their own.
But they're still going to be a dependent on your own. But say for example something happens to you, right? It's not like the 13A where if something happens to your wife, it immediately cancels your visa. With the SRRV, it actually passes down to another principal, and that principal will then take over your SRRV. So they won't be a dependent in that case.
You brought up the 13A. What is your recommendation on guys? Like in my case, 13A, but I was also eligible for the courtesy. Should choose the courtesy over the 13A?
I mean, if you have the eligibility to be on the SRRV, I really, recommend that you do the SRRV, because the difference between the 2 is the 13A is reliant on your marriage to a Filipino spouse. So meaning your visa is literally dependent on your relationship with your wife. And then of course, I always want to be practical with our clients when I'm giving them advice and assessment, right? Because when your visa is reliant on someone, meaning your wife being the petitioner, your wife can basically say, I don't want to be the petitioner of your visa anymore. I don't want you anymore. So
kick you out the door.
Yeah. So the sense of security is, you can always say like, I trust my wife, etc. But then you never know what happens in the future.
That's right.
Yeah. So
I have one friend who is married 25 years, and they come here, build a beautiful house. He's retired military. He's going to do the SRV.
Oh, okay.
Even though he can do the Balbayan visa and all these other ones, just in case the wife passes first.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't want that hassle. If I'm going to go through the hassle of applying to a visa, just do it once. And I'm going to attest to that. If you're going to do the SRV, that you should do over the 13A. You never know what happens in life. And if she does pass, you go back to the tourist visa, right?
Yes, tourist visa, and then you have to apply for another visa if you want to stay here. So the SRRV is a visa that's basically based on your own merit and your own capacity, right? It's not reliant on anyone. So unless the PRA says can't have this, or unless you commit a crime, then you're very good and secure with the SRRV, because we're all about what will happen in the long term, and you don't want to be in a position where, okay, what if your wife passes or something happens in your relationship? You don't want to be placed in a position where it's like, okay, what am I going to do next in terms
You
of
got
visa?
bank accounts, you got property, you got everything going on, and it gets very complicated.
And can I
Absolutely.
One last thing, process-wise, the SRRV is a one-time process.
It's faster.
Faster, yeah. In
13 takes years.
Yeah,
Years and multiple visits.
Visits.
Travel.
Because you start with the probationary 13A until you can get the permanent 13A. With the SRRV, it's a one-time process. And then in that one-time process, you're already a permanent resident.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the 13A on the positive end. Guy marries a Filipina here. He's not a veteran of any type. He doesn't have $50,000 to deposit. The 13A is a little bit more complicated to get. It's very expensive because you have to pay for the wedding,
That's always
pay for the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and all that kind of stuff. And but once you have it, as you said, there's a 1 year probationary.
1 year probationary, but 3 months before it expires, meaning you just have to wait 8 months, then you can apply for the permanent. But then the process is the same, where the waiting time is like 3 to 4 months still from submission. Yeah, so it's like I always say, it's a 2-tier process. It's a lot more
Paperwork and travel
and
up,
traveling and visiting
NBI, 2 visits NBI, right?
Yeah.
2 interviews. The interviews are tough. They're not easy. So let's get to a new topic. A lot of people are asking me about owning a business. Some people are interested in having a business where they own the whole thing. They don't want to have a partner.
Okay.
And I keep telling them there has to be the right type of visa for you to do that. And I think you can't come here broke and open a sari store.
Yes.
I think it's a more complicated process than that. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, okay. So actually, when you're starting a business, you can start a business as a tourist, but then that changes if you are actually working here in the Philippines. So then you'd have to get like a valid visa. So let's talk about how you can own the business 100%, right? So a lot of the common businesses that actually are here in the Philippines is the restaurant business, right? So the restaurant business is actually considered as a retail industry in the Philippines. And there are certain limitations in terms of foreign ownership, right? So if you want to own the business 100%, like foreign owned, you have to put up at least 25 million pesos, and that's like 400,000 USD. How you can avoid this capitalization is by maintaining the corporation as a domestic corporation, meaning it has to be at least 60% Filipino and 40% foreign, right? Other industries wherein your market is the Philippines, like you have the Filipino market, we call that domestic market enterprise. The capitalization is 200,000 USD. And this is the good part about starting a business in the Philippines, if your market, say you're a BPO company and your market is a foreign market, then there's no capitalization required and you can own it 100%.
But you're doing business outside of the Philippines.
Yes, so your base is in the Philippines, but if your clientele is outside of the country, and this is why it's attractive for BPO companies, there is no capitalization required. The capitalization, and I always say this, it just has to be reasonable enough for what you're trying to start. So in terms of visas, there are different visas that you can get in order to, validly work here in the Philippines as a business owner. So one of it is, of course, the 9G working visa, but this is not permanent residency. As a business owner, you can get this for 1 year. If you have all the qualifications, you can get it up to 3, and you can renew it all the time. We also have this visa called Special Visa for Employment Generation, where if you hire 10 Filipinos on a full-time basis, then you get permanent residency, called that SVEC. If you want to go like really, above it and then have a visa before even starting a business, we have this visa called Special Investors Resident Visa, or the SIRV. But in this visa, you have to invest at least 75,000 USD. And in that 75,000 USD, you can either invest it in your business, but then you have to report to the Board of Investments every year, or you can invest it into publicly listed corporations or the Philippine Stock Exchange. So the reports on that is every 3 years. The good news is for those who want to start a business, and if you have the SRRV or if you have the 13A, you can actually start a business too using those visas. The only thing to remember there is if you're going to be working and physically working, not just an investor, you also have to get an alien employment permit from the Department of Labor.
Well, that would also be if you're just managing it.
Yeah,
not physically doing the job, but managing it. Because I think someone got in trouble once doing getting, they had a business, and because they just managed it, they thought they didn't need any kind of visa. And
if you're working in the
if you're working in the business, yeah. So
you really have to get an employment.
Now, all these there's so many types of visas that you can get here in the Philippines. There's one where, what is it, like 50 per country a year? There's
the quota visa, but then that one I personally, we don't do it. I do not recommend it.
But there's so many types of visas.
Yeah.
Down in the description is a link to Heidi business, C&G Consultants. Click on that, and ask the question, and somebody will get back to you and answer that.
Yes.
If they can help you, they'll help you. If some things are so far out, they can't just help. Some people they're just way too complicated what they're trying to do.
Yes.
The digital nomad visa. This was a big topic last year.
We were so excited for that.
So excited for that. Dead in the water, right?
Dead in the water. I mean, it's been like a year, and we've been waiting for the implementing rules and regulations and how to process it. We've been following up with the DFA, and they still don't have the rules and regulations in order to actually get the digital nomad visa, right? So at this point, there's really like, we can't really do anything about it. A lot of people were excited for it, right? But it looks like it's not happening. I don't know.
Even if they passed, the chances were Americans couldn't use it because they wanted every country that they let people come in to use the digital visa, digital nomad visa, they had to reciprocate and have the same thing. And America doesn't do that. So.
Yeah, there has to be reciprocity where the country that the citizen that is applying for the digital nomad visa, their country has to be, reciprocating the Philippines, and they have to offer the DNV for Filipinos too.
Is there any other visas out there you want to talk about? Anything that's popped up of interest?
Nothing's new really right now in terms of visas, but I kind of want to touch a little bit about the quota visa, right?
Yeah.
It's a very ideal visa. It's nice. It's actually an immigrant visa as opposed to the non-immigrant visas that you get here in the Philippines. But the risk factor of getting the quota visa is so high because they only approve 50 nationalities per country per year. And sometimes, this is I don't want to say this, but there are people who actually do it, but then you have to pay a bigger amount in order to get it, right? So for me, it's just too risky, and we don't want to be, we don't want to put you in a position where
you think it's one price and all of a sudden somebody wants more money to continue.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we cannot really assure that you can get it because I have a friend that calls it the lottery visa. Yeah, because it's like, there's no assurance that you're going to get it. It just depends on how many from your country have applied. I have had friends who have managed to get the quota visa, but then I always tell them, man, you're so lucky because it's really a lottery visa.
It's like a get out of free card. You can do anything you want with that.
Yeah, and then I think they've upped the requirement remittance to 100,000 USD from it was 50,000 before, and now it's 100,000 USD.
Yeah,
so.
Too expensive. It's out of my league, and it's out of most people's league to get that type of visa. You noticed any bigger problems expats are having getting their visas? Have there been more rejections or still the same approval rate?
It's still the same approval rate, but what we have noticed is things are processing a little bit longer than usual. So before you could get your SRRV in like 2 months, 2 to 3 months. We've had some clients who have gotten it in like 4. So just, I think the government agencies are just doing a restructuring in terms of their internal processes. So just expect that things are going to be slower, especially now that there's, war going on and they've limited the days that they're going to be open. So just expect a few delays. But in terms of, processes and requirements, they're more or less the same.
Now, the one thing people have told me is getting the criminal background check is getting to be more and more difficult. I got mine, it was just, I went to the local sheriff's office and I got 2 papers that said, yeah, Mike's all right, never been in jail or something.
Yeah.
And now people are getting the FBI report that goes all the way back to you're a minor.
Yes. So, with the SRRV, FBI and local county sheriff is actually allowed, so they'll accept both. If you just want to be sure and get the fastest background check, just do local county sheriff background check.
And that's a 6-month window, right?
6-month window. Make sure it's fresh when you come here, and I think that the local county sheriff only checks up to 10 years.
And that's all you need.
Yeah, and that's all you need. Yeah.
And once you're 70,
you don't need it.
They don't care.
Yeah.
You could have done anything you want. No. But yeah. All right. So final guys, any kind of questions, leave them in the comment section. Heidi will have somebody from her office look at the comments and answer them for you. But best to click on the link and, send out an email and ask your questions, and they'll get back to you. You still, you do a consultation, and there's still a fee with that, or what are you doing with that?
Okay, so there's three types of consultations that we do. So email consultations, free. So you can send us a list of emails and you will respond, and that's free. We
have all your questions listed
out.
So
yeah, someone's there to answer them. There's the audio and video consult. We do charge $30 for the audio and video consult, and the same as the in-person consultation, which you can do either in our Makati office, which is located in iCare building in Legazpi Village, and then we also have an office in Cebu City, Robinson's Galleria.
Right where I'm staying, guys.
Right here, here, Robinson's Galleria at the 4th floor. So I would definitely recommend booking a consultation. It's very easy. You just have to go to our website, cgconsulting.ph, or use Mike's link, and then you'll be directed to the booking link.
Right to it.
Yeah.
And also that $30, even though it's not a big number, if you sign up with them, does that go towards?
Yeah,
it'll go towards your fees and that. So it's consumable, I call it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's been a while. I'm so happy to be here again.
It's been a while. Okay, guys, catch you later. Take care.
Bye. Take care.